Hi everybody, going to go through a quick live demo of NextRep just to show everyone how the platform works. So to start, go to nextrep.ai. This is the homepage that you're seeing now. And then to set up your account, click on the free trial button here in the top right of the screen. So when you first log into NextRep, this is going to be the screen that you see with this welcome message. When you're ready, click the Get Started button to move on to the next screen. Next, you'll see the profile setup screen, and this is where you input your company name and URL. And this allows NextRep and our system to store some information about your company and the offerings you provide, which then helps the AI models with the context generation and the message creation, which I'll explain a little bit further deeper in the demo. So for this live demo, we're going to assume the role of a rep at Coupa. So we're going to input Coupa, our company name, and then go to Coupa's website and input their URL into the company URL field. And then we're just going to do 1,000 to 5,000 for their employee size. So once you have all of that set up, you'll click this Setup Profile button. The next step is going to be to download the Chrome extension. So if you click this Install Extension button, this will now take you to our Chrome listing on the Chrome Web Store. I already have the Chrome extension downloaded, but if you did not have downloaded, you would just click the Add to Chrome button, and then you can also pin your Chrome extension here if you'd like to, just to have it for easier access. Back in NextRep, the last step of onboarding is this mini demo. So if you click the Try Now button, this will take you into a brief mini demo of NextRep just to kind of familiarize yourself with the flow and kind of proactively answer some of the questions that you may have. So if you click this begin button and just click next through all of these steps, it'll give you a pretty comprehensive demo of a product. So I will exit out of this, but feel free to go through this once you try the free trial. You're now seeing the dashboard of NextRep, and pretty prominent on the dashboard is this graphic that visualizes a process that we've built NextRep around. So just to reiterate that process, we start with signals. We go through what we have coined as the personalization hub process, and then we end with managing your outreach and your messages. So let's begin with the first part of that process, which is signals. So we'll click on the review signals button here. So now we are in signals, which is the starting point in NextRep. And really the whole point of this is to try to find high quality leads with a reason for reaching out. We've broken this down into 5 different signal types, and you'll see those different tabs here: new executives, funding, job postings, acquisitions, and then internal, which I'll talk about shortly. We started with these 5 signal types because these were signals that we would source when we were reps and feel like they're just strong signals to outbound into. And we're pulling in the data for these different signal types in about as real time as you can. So when people are posting about new executive positions or job postings or funding, we're getting that data in minutes after it is posted, and then allowing our users to see those signals as well. So we feel strong about that capability of the platform. We also understand how important it is to be able to see these signals that are in your territory as a rep in as real time as possible. So we allow our users to input filter criteria and then save those filters and receive email alerts when a new signal matches their filter criteria. So how you would do that is click on this filters button here. You can input your filter criteria. So let's just say finance, accounting, and operations executives. We're not going to put in industry now, but you have all the industry options here. Let's put all the way up to 500 employees, and then in some Midwest states here. So we'll do Ohio, Illinois, and Indiana. And then if you click this Save Your Current Filters button, and then just name a filter, so we'll say finance and ops, execs. And then if you click the Show Signals now, it'll apply your signal criteria, but you'll also see that there is a success notification up here. And this just allows you to confirm that the filters that you applied have been saved, and you will now receive email alerts when there's a new signal that matches that criteria. You can also click on the Saved Filters button here, and this will just show you all of the saved filters that you have, filter criteria for all of those, and then allow you to enable or disable the email alerts if you would like to do so. And this would just be an example of what that email alert would look like. Another feature of the signals page is the ability to see a detailed look of each signal. So if you select the view details button here on any signal, it'll take you to their signal details page. And this just has some more information about the signal itself. So if we click on the source hyperlink here, you can then see where we got the data from, and one, cross-reference that all of the data is accurate, but two, just make it easy to do any more research into the signal itself if you would like to do so. Back in the signal details page, we can see some additional information. So we have the title of the new executive, their name, location if available, a link to their LinkedIn profile, some more company information like the description from their LinkedIn page, a link to their LinkedIn page, a link to their website, things like that. You'll also notice this Signal Insights tab, which is disabled for this specific signal. The reason for that is there isn't enough information about this signal to have Signal Insights for it. So this will be dependent on the data source for the signal. So as you can see, there's not much information for the signal besides this post from Nick here. But if we were to go back signals and go to this one from GDI, for example, they just raised some funding, it looks like. You'll see that this does have Signal Insights. So what these Signal Insights are is our AI models taking in the data from the signal, analyzing it, and then giving reps access to these signals about things that they would find important when evaluating whether this is a good lead for them to pursue or not. So if you click the source link here, you can see that this is the article that was used to generate these Signal Insights. Okay, now let's add a couple of these leads to the personalization hub and walk through how that works. We'll add a new executive. So we will add this new CFO, Benjamin Lamb at Neighborly. We'll add that one to the personalization hub. So you select the checkbox here and then select add to personalization hub. And then we'll also add this funding signal, Zeno Power, who just raised $50 million in funding. The next step is going to be to navigate to the personalization hub. So that is found here. Okay, this is the personalization hub. You'll immediately notice that the two signals that we just sent from the signal section to here, the personalization hub, are in the not started column. So these signal cards, Zeno Power and Neighborly, these are going to be what you move from column to column to take the signal from just the initial signal all the way to the relevance messaging. So we'll walk through that process shortly. But before we do that, let's check out the My Offerings section quickly and see how that is used. So click on the My Offerings button in the top right. That will navigate you to the My Offerings section. This is our knowledge repository that's used by the AI models to generate the context and the messaging, which is what we're about to dive into in the personalization hub. But if you remember during onboarding, part of the onboarding was to input your company name and URL. And the purpose of that was to generate all of these different offerings. So again, this allows our AI models to have an understanding of what you sell, the value you provide, and allows us to incorporate that within the messaging in the application. You'll see that we have different offering cards here that are meant to represent different specific offerings that your company sells. So if we go into Coupa Procure here, for example, we can see there are different sections within each offering. So the overview, the target business problems, the key functional capabilities, core value props, industry applications. And this allows NextRep to get a really comprehensive understanding of all of our users' companies and know what they're selling. Okay, now let's actually take these signals and move them through the personalization hub. So the first step is going to be identifying and adding contacts that we want to target for outreach. So we will move both of these signal cards into add contacts, and then we will go to LinkedIn and find the contacts that we want to target. I already have the sales nav pages pulled up for both Zeno Power and Neighborly, and I've identified some contacts to target, but this would be when you go to LinkedIn or Sales Nav, whatever tool you use to find contacts, and identify the contacts that make the most sense for your product and in your offering. So for Zeno Power, we've identified Randy Heslop, their procurement and contracts manager. So let's add him to NextRep through our Chrome extension. So you'll see that we have already gotten his profile picture, his name, and title. You can input an email and phone number if you have that information. We get that occasionally if someone lists that within their LinkedIn profile, but that's not common. So you'll likely need to use whatever contact data tool you use to input this information. But the key step here is to associate this contact with the correct company. This is what's gonna allow you to use this contact for the specific signal. So this is gonna be for Zeno Power. So we just type in Zeno Power, select this, and then hit click Save to NextRep. So now Randy is tagged to Zeno Power within NextRep, and we can click this View a NextRep button, and we can see the contact record that has been created for Vincent Randy here. You can see his name, his title, the About section on his LinkedIn page, some other information about him, and then his work experience, which is important for generating the context in messaging as well. Now let's add the other contacts. So we'll add the COO at Zeno Power as well. And then for Neighborly, the contacts that we have identified is their new CFO. So this was the new exec that the signal was for. And as you can see, is just 1 month in seat, or under 1 month. And then also their director of strategic sourcing, Craig. Okay, now back in NextRep, we will select each of these signal cards to open up the Add Contacts page. And we will click the Add Saved Contacts, where the contacts that we just added from LinkedIn are now available for us to select. So we'll select both of these, click Add Contacts, and then click Build Context. This will now load the context for this signal. It should take about 20 or 30 seconds. While that's loading though, we can go add the contacts for Zeno Power. So we'll do the exact same process here. And you'll see now that the context for Neighborly has loaded. We'll now click into the signal card again to see the context that was created for Neighborly. All right, we're now on the build context page, and there's a lot going on here, so I'll try to break this down as concisely as I can. But I want to preface with, I think this is where the messaging in NextRep, the strength really comes from this page, because a lot of the other AI messaging tools on the market just try to go from, A to Z in their messaging. And I think what NextRep does a really good job of is finding a reason for reaching out that's relevant on a per contact basis. So I'll explain how we're doing that here. And I hope once we dive into this page a little further, everyone that's watching can kind of see how we do that as well. Real quick though, a couple parts on the UI. So you can see both contacts that we had tagged to this signal here. You'll also see this reference data button. If you click this button, this panel will open, and this just allows you to cross-reference with all of the other data about the company, the contact, and the signal itself when you're reviewing the context that was generated. So we can see some information about the signal, the contact, a link to their LinkedIn profile, their position, then their work experience, and then also the company information here as well. But let's go back to the context. So you'll see there are 3 main components of the context: unique observation, the hypothesized pain or opportunity, and the value proposition. This is what we feel is necessary to generate really strong and contextually relevant messaging. The unique observation is what prompted you to reach out to this contact? Like, why are you a stranger that's reaching out to them? Like, why are you doing so? The hypothesized pain is from that observation, what do you think they may be struggling with? And the hypothesized pain then leads into the value proposition, because the value prop, that is, how does your company, the products that you offer, how does that address the pain that you are hypothesizing based on the unique observation? So a lot of words there, but it really should be a logical progression from the observation all the way to the value proposition. We have a couple options per contact. So we have the recommended option or the alternate option for you to choose from. And once you find the one that you would like to choose, you just click the confirm button here. But just to kind of briefly review these. So the unique observation is Neighborly is appointed Ben Lamb as the new CFO. And according to the article, a key part of his mandate involves leading acquisitions and managing the company's capital structure to support growth. From that observation, the hypothesized pain is, as the new CFO tasked with leading these acquisitions and their cap structure, Ben might need to integrate financial operations of acquired entities efficiently and optimize capital allocation to fund future growth. And then the value proposition is Coupa Treasury Management could provide Ben and Neighborly with the centralized visibility and tools needed to effectively manage the cash, liquidity, and everything that comes with the hypothesized pain. So this is a strong context that you can then use to create the messaging. That'll be what we demo next. But once you have confirmed the option you like, you just click, again, the confirm button here. And then after that, you'll see the context for the next contact. And I think this is an important distinction because the context is contact specific. So this is the same signal at the same company, but the context that we have for Craig, their director of strategic sourcing, is going to be different than the context we have for Ben, who's their CFO. So it's contact and position specific. So once you've identified the context that you would like to select for all of your contacts, then the next step will be to craft messages. So you'll select that button here. This is now loading the messages for Neighborly. And again, another 20 or 30 seconds. While that's loading, we can also go into Power and do the exact same process we just did for Neighborly. So I'm not going to go as in depth with this one, but again, you can review both context sets, select the one that you feel is the strongest. I'm just going to do the best match for both of these for sake of time, and then select craft messages. So the Neighborly messages have now loaded, so we can click on the signal card to review the messages that have been generated. We're now on the craft messages page, which has similarities to the build context page. You have this reference data panel, which now has the context that we just generated for you to reference as well. We'll start with Ben, their CFO, and just kind of look at types of messaging that has been created. So the first email we can see, and this is again a live demo, so this was just created by NextRep. Ben saw the announcement of your new CFO role at Neighborly. The article mentioned a key part of your mandate is leading acquisitions and managing the capital structure to support growth. Successfully integrating financials from acquired entities and optimizing capital allocation for expansion often presents unique challenges for finance leaders. Is ensuring seamless financial integration a focus area for you in this new role? So pretty strong starting point. And we have this edit icon up here, so you can come in and edit any part of this that you'd like. So for me, I'd probably take out this word because it's just, I think, kind of a buzzword, and I don't like to include that in messaging very often. So I could take this out and then save the changes. And you can do that for all the messaging, but the key part is, since it had this context to generate the messaging, and we've also baked in a lot of best practices around being brief and concise and using conversational language versus, buzzwords and typical kind of AI messaging, but it creates really strong outreach that reps are confident in sending and don't have to completely rewrite from scratch. I've used other tools out there, and some of them are better than others, but none of them I felt generated the kind of messaging that I wanted to or would send as a rep. There are different types of messaging as well. So we have 4 email touches here. We have a couple options for a LinkedIn DM, a couple options for text messages. And you'll notice that the structure for all of these different channels are channel specific. So for example, text message, this is extremely brief and just trying to get a quick reply. The cold calls is, I think, fairly unique the way we've structured it. So there are a couple options for how to open the call. There are 6 common objections and some rebuttals that are specific to this signal and this contact, and then some low friction call to action options. So all of this messaging for these 4 various channels that are using the context and using the best practices for messaging, we feel gives the users a lot of different avenues to try to get a response and break into these accounts. Once you've made all of the edits you'd like, you'll click the confirm button here as well. And you'll do that for all of the contacts that you have tagged to the signal. So for Craig here as well. Once we've done that, we can then click the complete personalization button, and this will complete the process within the personalization hub and move this signal to messaging, which will be the final part of NextRep that we are going to cover. Okay, now the signal is in the messaging table, and you'll notice that if you go back to Personalization Hub, the signal card is no longer there. So now it is moved completely out of Personalization Hub and is in the messaging table in NextRep. You'll see there are a couple new fields here. So last contacted and messages sent, which are empty at the moment. If we click on the View Details button here, you'll be taken to the message details page, and this is where we will manage the outreach that we send from the messages we just created in the personalization hub. So the first tab, messages, you can see the various message types that we've generated. So the emails, LinkedIn, text messages, and cold calls. You'll also notice there's a timestamp here that notes the date that the messages were created. And then there's this mark as sent button on the top right. When you send the messages out of your messaging platform of choice, whether it's SalesLoft, or you just use your CRM or email provider like Outlook or Gmail, whatever tool you use, you'll copy and paste the different fields here. So now this is copied to your clipboard. You'll send it, and then to manage the messages and just to stay organized on what messages you've sent versus haven't, you'll click this Mark as Sent button, which then timestamps the message to the date that you sent it. But also, if you go to the Activities tab here, you'll see a descending order of the activities that you have sent for each contact. You also have the ability to log notes if you'd like as well. So that's what this note tab is. If you press Add Note here, you can input any kind of note, save it, and that will register here. This is where you can toggle between the messages per contact. So now we can see the messages for Craig. And that is pretty much it with NextRep. There are a couple parts of the platform that we didn't cover, like the My Companies and My Contacts, but that is pretty intuitive, really just a repository to store all company and contact data. So I don't feel the need to cover that in this demo, but I hope covered everything and gave anyone that was watching a good understanding of the platform. Would love for anyone to try it and open to any and all feedback. Thank you for the time and appreciate you watching the demo.